Okay, everybody. Sean Daniel here with Guitar Control. Today we're talking about the greatest guitar questions of all time. Actually, no, the greatest guitar questions ever, I think is essentially what we're going for. I do not know the greatest guitar questions ever. That's why I'm going to be relying heavily on some people who end up showing up. I have a list of some of these greatest questions ever that I had sent to me by various different guitar aficionados, which we're probably going to start getting to at some point. But before I get to the list, I would love to start taking questions from anybody out there, now that some people are kind of rolling in. Because I got some interesting questions. I'm not sure if they're the greatest guitar questions ever. That's a bold statement. But these are guitar-related questions to a certain extent. And I guess I could probably start with one of these. What is the best attention-getting guitar song? And I actually can answer this one unequivocally, because every time I play this song in public, there's always some guy who's like, right on, man, I'm with you. And that is Bon Jovi's Dead or Alive. Specifically the... So that is the most attention-getting song that you'll ever hear, because anytime I'm in like a live setting, live situation, it doesn't even have to be a live situation. There's then there's negative attention. Exactly. Nobody said this was like a positive attention-getting song, but every time you play Dead or Alive Bon Jovi, you will get a reaction. I cannot guarantee what that reaction will be. Sometimes it'll be pure love and adulation. Other times it will be just like disdain, distaste, hate, whatever. I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to answer some of the greatest guitar questions ever. And Dead or Alive by Bon Jovi, one of the most interesting things. In fact, my Bon Jovi story was I used to work at this guitar shop where we had these teaching studios in the back, and there was like a real paper-thin wall between the teaching studio and the front counter where the guy would be checking stuff out. And we had this pretty gnarly dude, my man Brian Spainhauer, who was always working the desk. And just to troll him, I taught like 20 students in a row how to play Bon Jovi Dead or Alive. And it definitely kind of made him go kind of insane. And I will always cherish that fateful Bon Jovi day that I had. So, first question out of the gate is most attention-getting guitar song, Bon Jovi Dead or Alive. Please, if you have a better one, I'd love to see it in the comments, live or otherwise. The next question we have from Meg W is, which guitar would you use in an end of days apocalypse scenario? So I kind of feel like I need a little bit more information to go on. I'm just going to assume it's a zombie apocalypse type deal, in which case I have a few answers. The first one, my brain instantly goes to like a BC Rich like Warlock. If you've ever seen one of those, it's a very battle axe looking guitar. I think you'd have to choose something solid body, and it would have to be electric. An acoustic would probably just break. You know, you don't need that. So you need something strong, something with pointy edges. The BC Rich Warlock would be great for kind of like just fighting animals off, fighting zombies off, whatever. Zombie guitar, electric, and zombie acoustic. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Pointy headstock. Okay, so that was where I was going to go next. I had a Dean Mab 3 at one point, and the headstock was so sharp that it would like impale holes in anything it touched. I cut myself on that so many times. It's like one of those things where like the headstock was just like a jagged point, and it comes from the factory sharpened like it's a bayonet. So that would actually be a good answer. Any kind of the Dean pointy headstock ones. Now, upon further review, I think the actual correct answer for this would be one of the carbon fiber guitars. Because if you think about it, that's like the perfect guitar for a zombie apocalypse, because you're going to want to have the ability to go in the water. So the carbon fiber ones are really cool is because you could use those as like a paddle, and it's not going to warp, whereas like a solid body wood guitar would kind of get warped. The playability would definitely decrease after using it in a canoeing situation. The carbon fiber ones, I think a lot of them are made out of like the same thing that like helicopter blades are made out of. So I mean, if they're good enough for a helicopter blade, I would imagine they're good enough for a zombie apocalypse. Plus, they always stay in tune, which, you know, when you're on the run from evil demons, you need to be in tune. You can't always stop and tune up. So I would say, yeah, carbon fiber, really just pick your carbon fiber ones. Anyways, Paul, yeah, it is very important. Thank you, Robert. So Paul D asks, what is the best guitar chord? The best guitar chord, that's kind of a loaded question, but my answer for this is not a single chord. If it were to be a single chord, I would have to say F major 7, okay? But that is not the complete answer. The best guitar chord is the major 7 chord on the 4th degree. Okay, so what that means is in any key, there are 7 notes, right? Whatever that 4th note is, you turn it into a major 7 chord, and it is the best chord of all time, okay? So for example, if you're in the key of C, 1, 2, 3, 4, C, D, E, F, right? F would become a major 7 chord. So you could use a couple different voicings. You could use this guy right here, like if you take like an A minor voicing and then add an F to the low part, that's a major 7 voice. You could do that one. You could do this one right here. This is a great one. In fact, we're gonna go with this one specifically. Put your middle finger on the 8th fret of the A string, your pointer finger on the 7th fret of the D string, and either your pinky or your ring finger on the 9th fret of the G string. Now, why is this such a great chord? Is because the sound of the 4 chord, otherwise known as the Lydian mode, is the most beautiful and playful of them all. So if we had any chord progression in the key C, we can always hit that F major 7 is gonna sound awesome. So let's take just like a really easy like C major to A minor to G major to F major 7, right? Now let's do the same thing. C, A, G. So that's my answer for greatest guitar chord ever. You know, you might get some kind of fancy people talking about major 9 chords, suspended 4, add 11, whatever. I don't know. Not really my style. I try not to roll with that much difficulty. You know, whatever. Major 7 chord on the 4th degree. Now, continuing on with that, so let's talk about, like if you're in the key of G, the people's key, runner-up Hendrix. We're talking about Hendrix, like the Hendrix chord, like this guy right here. I think that's what most people think of as the Hendrix chord, which would be like, it's kind of like a dominant 7-ish type sounding thing, like in Purple Haze. I'm assuming that's the one that you meant, Robert. But yeah, if you don't know this one, you gotta learn this one. 7th fret on the A string. It's major 3rd. The 6th fret, yeah, see, I know what you're talking about. 6th fret on the D string with your pointer finger. The 7th fret on the G string with your ring finger. And the 8th fret on the B string with your pinky, right? So, fantastic chord. You can use this as like a substitution for like a dominant 7 chord, which would be on the 5 chord. Like I said, my favorite one was major 7 on the 4 chord. You could use this as a dominant 7 on the 5 chord. So what if we combined them, right? So where this note right here is an E, so this is like an E, we'll call this the E Hendrix chord. We can go right from that into my guy, the 4 chord, as a 7. It's like wrong, and then it's beautiful, and then it resolves on the 1, right? So learning your scale degrees, if you're like totally lost by everything I'm saying right now, learn your scale degrees, people. It's the most important thing you can do. So what we just did there with where E was the 5, did I break up with Hans de Foucault? I did. All right, so for those of you who don't know, Hans de Foucault is my men's premium hairstyling company that sponsors me. And I didn't break up with them. We're just not seeing eye to eye right now. So I'm on a temporary Hans de Foucault boycott. But that's for a different channel. This is more about the greatest guitar questions ever, and not so much the greatest Sean Daniels sponsor questions ever, which Hans de Foucault will always have a special place in my heart. Back to that Jimmy chord. Put it on the 5. And again, when I say put it on the 5, oh, I clean my neck with lighter fluid. Okay, all right. So when I read this one, I cleaned my neck with lighter fluid, but and then lemon oil. The neck went wacko in like 2 seconds. I ended up having to shim the nut and lower the saddle. Is this normal? I would say it's probably not normal. As far as like cleaning the neck, you know what? That's actually a good question. It's like, how should I like clean and maintain my guitar? A lot of different answers out there for you. And whatever you decide to do, like lemon oil is like a big one. Do it in moderation. I remember the first thing I was like, oh, like gun stock oil, lemon oil, whatever. Get it and then just like lather it on there. Yeah, that's like awful awful advice. So it depends on the type of fretboard you have to. But whatever you use, in my experience, there are different, kind of schools of thought on this. Do it lightly, because I think you probably most people have a tendency to put more on than they actually need. I actually just kind of put some of the, Ernie Ball makes these cool things like little wipes, like one-use wipes that have like lemon, whatever kind of lemon solution it is in there. And those are nice because they just come in like little, almost like wet nap packets. One swipe and you're done. It sounds really good. Okay. How often should I change my strings? Was another one that just got answered. So that's different depending on the type of strings you have, the type of guitar you have. I'll answer acoustic first, and also how often you play. There are two main types of strings. There are coated strings and uncoated strings. Generally, the coated ones will last longer. Some people think the uncoated ones sound better, but they rust and they kind of wear out quicker. So if you're going uncoated strings, my personal thing was to change them like once a month. All right. Now, some people would say that for regular playing, that is like not often enough. I've known people who change their strings every week. That's a little too much for me. I'm a low maintenance guy. I don't know if you can tell by my lifestyle decisions that I make. But yeah, if I were to use uncoated strings, maybe once a month, depending on how much you've been playing, depending on your climate too. And everybody's hands are different. My hands are kind of like maybe above average oiliness. So yeah, I don't know. That's what I would say. Now for coated strings, a little bit different. Like elixirs are really popular, and a lot of people use those. I would say every 3 months. In fact, again, also like how often you play. I remember when I didn't live in Florida, I would come visit my mom, and she had a guitar, and I put like elixir strings on one of the guitars there. Played it for like a week. I left. I didn't come back for like a year and a half, and I came back, and the strings were like in phenomenal condition. So I was always pretty impressed by elixir strings ever since that story. But that's what I would say. 3 months for coated, 1 month uncoated to taste. If you see it starting to rust, if it's like killing your hands, it's probably time to change them. Also, in my experience, I wouldn't, like when I first started out, I would have no idea when they were dead, because like the sound of your strings just kind of gradually degrades over time. So you won't like all of a sudden be like, oh, these sound awful right away. It'll kind of like back it down. Electric guitar strings, I almost change maybe like every, I don't know, every month you could probably get away with. I would say maybe a little more frequently, again, depending on use and like the thickness and stuff like that too. For me personally, electric strings I change every month. Acoustic probably every 2 to 3 months. All right, what else we got here? I just installed a Steve Vai Dark Matter 2 bridge pickup. When I plug in tonight, I'm assuming I'll be as good as Steve Vai and able to sound like him. Is that how this works, right? Yeah, so I would essentially assume that. I mean, I don't have a Dark Master 2 bridge pickup myself, but I mean, yeah. I mean, it also depends on the guitar. Do you have the gem, the Ibanez gem with like the little handle in it? Because I think you need one of those. But if you have one of those, which I think probably comes with the Dark Matter one, then you definitely should be able to sound like Steve Vai. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't, right? I use 11 gauge strings. It's a Strat type. The G string spun weird, just off. Tuning is good on it, and the setup in the new pack. What do you think the problem is? That's interesting. So, I mean, if like you just put a new set of strings on and the G string is all messed up, and like you're saying that before it wasn't, because if that's the case, if like it was the exact same gauge of strings and it was working fine, and then you changed it and all of a sudden it's not fine or doesn't sound good, it could be like a defect in the actual G string. That's like something that actually happens a lot. What acoustic add-on amp do you recommend? So what do you mean by an add-on amp? I guess is my follow-up. Just like an acoustic amp in general, because honestly, I really like the Fender one. Gosh, it's got like brown tweed Tolex. It's like a tweed cover with like brown Tolex on the outside. I really like that for an acoustic amp. But honestly, I think yeah, okay. honestly, just for like an acoustic amp, I think a lot of times, and what could be a good route is to just get like a PA system, because you're looking for something that wants to like recreate like a full range of sound to get the lows of an acoustic and the highs without maybe, I mean, you could always use an electric amp, but if you've used like an electric guitar and put an acoustic guitar through it, you'll probably notice like a treble, just like a painful trebly signal that kind of sounds awful with like a brighter acoustic instrument, depending on the pickup and a lot of other factors, as always. But a PA system usually sounds really good, because that should be able to give you the full range of the actual guitar, and then kind of like keep everything intact, right? Let's see. What do you do with an acoustic guitar without electronics if you want to plug in? Okay, this is actually a great question, and something near and dear to my heart, because right here, this guy, this Taylor GA3, does not have electronics. And I've played this live, and it's like, how do you do that? There's a couple options that you have. You can get one of those pickups that sit in the sound hole. It's like, all it is just kind of like a portable pickup that you can plug in right here. And then it has a 1/4 inch out, just like a regular electric guitar or acoustic electric guitar would. I have gotten various results on those. I think Dean Markley is one that made like a really good selling one. Never really been super impressed with those. It's always kind of like an uncomfortable fit in here, and I never thought that they sounded that good. I am a huge fan of actually miking up an acoustic guitar live or to play even through an amp. Like if you get like a cheap mark, hello from North Carolina, what's happening, Dan? What I've always, even like a SM57 or like an Audix i5, just like a dynamic mic that you can kind of just like put somewhere near the guitar. I've always had the best results for live playing just using something like that. And again, I know there's like piezo pickups and stuff like that you can get too. But I'm a big fan of just using a dynamic mic that's not going to feedback and like just blow your amp out, and actually using that to capture just kind of the full range sound of an acoustic guitar. And to me, that has always worked really well live, and just kind of like playing around. Hello from San Bernardino, California. What is up, David? Good to see you, man. Yeah, but anyways, so one thing I wouldn't recommend is, I've seen a lot of like decent guitars. Oh my god, I saw this happen to a Martin D35 once, which is like such an awesome guitar. Someone actually like routed, they like cut out a piece of the body of it and tried to like install like a Fishman pickup system, and just kind of totally like ruined the guitar. So whatever. It seems like the plugins don't sound that great. Yeah, so just talking more about acoustic electrics in general, that was kind of rough, but yeah. Maybe considered rude, but have you had any luck getting a decent acoustic sound out of an electric? How is that rude? That's not rude, my man. Not at all. Now, there are a lot of acoustic simulators out there, like I'm thinking mainly of the Boss one. And yes, David, really, a Martin D35, they routed the electronics. Oh, I can't even think about it. It's so bad. But yeah, the acoustic simulators, I personally have never heard one that sounds that great, with the exception of, and it's kind of an expensive one, the Godin Multiac with the synthesizer pedal. If you've ever seen that, definitely like YouTube it, check it out. My man Andreas, who I have on my channel sometimes, is an absolute beast with that. And again, the Golden Multiac is still, it's not technically an acoustic guitar. Usually it has nylon strings, and it has like a MIDI out that you can go into like an acoustic simulator, or you can like program the synthesizer pedal to be acoustic. And honestly, I found that acoustic pedal sounds really, really good. Anyways, if you guys have any suggestions, please, hit me up with like different acoustic simulators. But I really haven't found one other than that synthesizer pedal that sounds that great on an acoustic or on an electric guitar. I remember I used to work at Guitar Center, and they had that what is it, the Boss AC3? I could be getting that number wrong, but again, it's just, I think it's a brown pedal that says acoustic simulator. It's never really convinced. I mean, it added like a chiminess to the signal, but it didn't really sound like acoustic to me in general. If anything, if that's what you're going for, I would just say get maybe like a big body semi-hollow electric guitar, and then you can kind of have the best of both worlds in a way, because that'll still sound acoustic-ish unplugged. Or if you got the money, check out the Golden Multiac, because that thing is pretty beast. Love that thing. All right, let's see here. how many chords do I have to know to get started? So again, a lot of these guitar questions, these greatest guitar questions ever, might I add. Okay, might be good to put a DI box. Yeah, okay. So just back to the last one. This guy's saying it's good to put a DI box between your acoustic guitar and the PA. Yeah, definitely something you should check out. Depends on the PA too. I have a Bose L1 and you can plug your acoustic right into it, and that has like an input built for that, which is essentially maybe like a DI box would be doing for impedance and stuff like that too. But anyways, how many guitar chords do you need to know to get started? I'm a big fan of saying at the bare minimum you need to learn 6 chords. Some people will give you this nonsense that it's 3 chords and the truth is all you need. Come on. If you can learn 3 chords, you can learn 6 chords. They're easy. And it's just like we were talking about before, major scale has 7 notes. 6 of those notes become, well, they all 7 of those become chords. But really in most popular genres of music, only 6 of those are chords. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The 1, 4, and 5 being major chords, 2, 3, and 6 being minor chords. So if we're talking the key of C major, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, we just learn one of those chords for those first 6 notes. Learn the C major chord. Learn the D minor chord. E minor. F major. G major. And A minor. So really, those 6 chords, that's it. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor. That's all you really need to know, because as long as you're not playing a song that has like key changes or that's borrowing chords from another key, you can play any single song with the help of a capo. So again, like we said, we didn't learn a D major. D major is like one of the first 15 or whatever that you learn. But if you learn a C major chord with a capo, you just put the capo on the 2nd fret and there's your D major. So the first 6 are essential. And I mean, come on. Yeah, I'm sure if you've subscribed to Guitar Control and you hear Kicking It, you probably know those 6 chords. But if you're trying to help a friend out and they think that learning guitar is daunting, those first 6 chords are definitely good ones to know. So we've got that. Who is the most handsome guitar teacher ever? Well, I mean, I can let you guys answer that one for yourselves. But moving on, what else we got? Oh, Les Paul, Strat, or Telecaster, right? Show, like a Rolling Stone. There you go, show. Like a Rolling Stone. Yeah, use all the chords you need. There we go, cool. What did I say? Oh yeah, the lifelong debate. Les Paul, Strat, or Telecaster. So this is very heated, for sure. And this is obviously probably the 3 most iconic guitars of all time, I would say, right? No disrespect to the SG players out there, or the 333 players, but it's really pretty much all about the Les Paul, the Strats, and the Telecasters. I personally am a Strat guy. I kind of have been from day one, but that's just because of what I started on. You know, my first guitar was like one of those those cheap Squier Starcaster Strat body guitars, and just because that's what I started on, that's what I just innately became used to. So I carried the Strat badge into my adult formative years. But that doesn't mean I don't love Les Pauls and Telecasters. In fact, I would actually say, you know, the Telecaster is definitely, I would say, maybe the most versatile all-around guitar. You know, you'll see metal guys play Teles, country guys play Teles, rock guys play Teles, jazz guys, like you can manipulate the tone with the Telecaster, I would say, just using your hands in different techniques than any other guitar. That's why I'm a big Telecaster fan. A lot of people don't like the Les Pauls. Like this guy can't play a Les Paul neck because it's too flat. That's definitely maybe an acquired taste if you're not used to the Les Pauls. But the sound of humbuckers, and especially with like the weight and the sustain of those Les Pauls, is something that's just legendary. Me personally, I started out with a Hendrix guy, just learning Hendrix songs. So I'm a Strat guy. What are your thoughts on Fender's Jazzmaster? Great question. I think probably an underrated guitar, generally. I've only actually played a couple Jazzmasters. In fact, why is it that like whenever you go in a guitar shop, they never have Jazzmasters? It's kind of messed up. And I remember especially finding like an American-made Jazzmaster was like nearly next to impossible for me a couple years ago when I was like semi in the market for one. I definitely like the feel of it. I like the sound of it for sure. Between that and like gosh, I'm trying to think of like the other ones that were like that, because Fender had that what's it called, the, gosh, I can't even think of it, like the Pawn Shop series, right? I think they had like a kind of monstrosity type Jazzmaster, and that one really sounded pretty cool. Now, I think above all, it's almost weird because it's like, it has its own sound that isn't really a Strat. It's not really a Telecaster. It's almost just kind of like a mix. Even like, you know, you can kind of get like Les Paul-ish tones out of a Jazzmaster. I do think that a Jazzmaster is kind of like a weird name for that. I should probably research why that's even called that. But the only bad thing I would have to say about the Jazzmaster is I wasn't a huge fan of the body cut and how it would kind of sit. And also, too, it just seemed like it was a little bit too much of a combo of other guitars, and it didn't really totally seem like its own thing to me. Whereas, you know, with the Les Paul, the Strats, and the Telecasters, you kind of know the signature iconic sound that you're getting, and then there are just variations between those. Again, like my main guitar is like a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe 62 reissue, which is awesome. To me, that's like the strattiest Strat sounding Strat that there is. Same thing with like, you know, Les Paul Standard is kind of like the, you know, the Les Paul to go for. And the Telecaster is just like the American Standard Telecaster is like fantastic. It seems like asymmetric guitars are in, so now you can find them easier. Yeah, so it does kind of seem that way, right? I mean, you know, it's interesting. There's so many weird guitars out there. You know what? Another thing I liked were those Dan Electro reissue guitars, like the U2 one. It had nothing to do with the band U2. I think it was called like a U2 Dan Electro. Those things were awesome because they were so cheap that they were like the thinnest pieces of wood that had almost kind of like a really awesome like retro sound. I gotta get one of those Dan Electros on the channel because those are fantastic. The only thing is they're super overpriced. They're trying to charge you so much money, like $600 for like literally the crappiest like little bridge in there, because they're kind of riding the wave of this retro asymmetrical guitar thing. But you know, Dan Electro's got a cool logo. They have some cool looking designs and stuff like that too. But you know, for whatever phases the guitar industry goes through, you know, it always comes back to the same stuff. And I'm looking at you, Gibson robots that we all remembered so well. It always is going to come back to the Les Pauls, the Strats, the Telecasters, and again, the semi-hollow ones too, like the Gretsch's, like 333, so 335s, I mean. And yeah, iconic guitars, all of them. But basically, any guitar that stays in tune is a fantastic guitar. Someone asked me what the best open tuning was. Well, that's an interesting question. I guess I'm a fan of Dadgad. Have you ever tried that out? Let's try that out. So right now this guitar is the standard, just put new strings on it. We're gonna go down to Dadgad, traditional Irish tuning. So first of all, if you don't know, if you just tune your low D string down to for an E to a D, you get like a drop D, which is totally out of tune right now. So D, A, D, G, A, D. D, A, D, G, A, D. Now, if you know anything about that, you get this super open, bright chime here. All I'm doing is I'm just riding the A string, going up and down. Yeah, ancient Irish Zeppelin tuning. Huge Dadgad fan. The reason it sounds so good, if you think about those notes, D, A, D, G, A, D. We have three notes, right? A G, an A, and a D. Now, if you watch some of the music theory videos, a G major chord is a G, a B, and a D. When you turn that B into an A, you get a G suspended 2 chord. So this is like a suspended chord. And then you can kind of just go through maybe, different notes in a key. Like what I just did there, I just took the A string, and I now turn this into a B. So it's kind of like, it's the sound of like a G major. C, which is also in that key. D, E, F sharp, G. So So if I just play the A string along the G major scale, and it sounds awesome. It's like a huge open sounding thing that like it's so easy to like that was one finger just rolling through, you know, a key. You can get like a bunch of really cool stuff. So if you're experimenting with like open tunings, definitely go dadgad, you know, and you know, trust me, I've been there where it's like detuning a guitar is like the last thing that I want to do. Pure laziness, 100% pure laziness. You know, get over it. There, you know, I've got a snark tuner on here. Again, these are brand new strings, so it's still kind of like settling in, so it might be a little bit out of tune. But yeah, if you take one thing from this live stream, just welcome the joy of dadgad into your life. In fact, just Google like different dadgad songs because they're you know like the one guy said traditional Irish songs. Zeppelin's got a few in there. Gosh, I can't think of any other like really famous dadgad songs off the top of my head. But it's just something that really kind of inspires and stokes a lot of creativity. So you find open tuning so intimidating because I don't know what the chords I'm playing. Are you supposed to experiment? Yes, that is the whole point about playing an alternate tuning is because I think one of the, I don't want to say dangers, but like playing a standard all the time, you get so used to like your shapes and like your pentatonic boxes and stuff. Like you play the pentatonic scale. Like that didn't sound, you know, good, but did it sound bad? I don't know, you know, it's up to you. So an alternate tuning will kind of just blow your mind and kind of like just erase all like the shapes and boxes that you normally travel in. And then you can do one or two things. You can just kind of like start messing around with things, you know, like I'm just gonna play power chords. I'm not even thinking about this. Power chords on the A string. Octaves. Another thing to think about in dadgad is the A and the D and the G strings are the same. So you can always kind of like find like a spot in there. Like if you just want to do power chord. Like everything here is going to be the same that you can use. It's just the outer accompanying strings will kind of add like a lot of like life, character to what you're doing. But especially with like you know, I'm not really even thinking about like the theory behind what I'm doing or even just like the names of chords. I'm just kind of like letting my hand and my ear kind of come together a little bit. Now, the other way to approach that, instead of just experimenting, which again, experimenting is the best way to kind of break outside those boxes and maybe try something new, is to actually think about what you're doing. So in dadgad, remember that open string was just like a G suspended 2 chord. So anytime you bar everything, you get a suspended chord, all right? Now you can also think of like, all right, maybe if I want to add something different, if I want to, yeah, or just learn major and minor scales and it's all good in all tunings, yeah, for sure, right? Because especially across one string, learning the intervals, like this is a D, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. That would be the major scale up on one string. That's different for if you wanted to play the D major scale right there, like here. Right? That's a major scale shape. But I'm kind of getting a different sound because of the down-tuned nature of that low E string, which is now a D. Now, if you want to think more about the music theory of it, we could maybe take some of the bottom strings. So I lowered the B and the E string down to an A and a D, right? So if I think about where the G string was, I've got a G, an A, and a D. I can just maybe move this down to an A, and a D. Right? And then it's like, okay, I'm doubling up a little bit on that A. I'm getting 2 A's and a D when I do that. All right? Now maybe I can find other notes that go well with an A, kind of like an E. That's an A and an E, 2 A's and an E. That's like a power chord, right? Yeah. So now maybe I can move this around. So it's a shape, which, I mean, you shouldn't, this is a shape that, like, if you ever played an A7 in standard tuning and just went down a string, you're kind of getting, a different sort of vibe with the shape that you already have experience. So the actual shape of it isn't really that difficult. It's more just about kind of how you're moving it around, right? Same thing here. You go on to something like just nasty. Play like an E7 here. So it's just, kind of one thing to do in a different tuning, I suppose. Is playing by ear a good thing on guitar? I tend to do that. I go by sounds and just remember, practice how I did it. I practice scales too, though. So I think probably guitar is the best instrument to learn by ear, because you're making a connection between your brain, your ear, and your fingers. And eventually so much of it is muscle memory, just kind of the way that the fretboard is laid out, no matter what the tuning is, that learning by ear is like one of the best things that you can ever do. And in fact, all the teaching I do, because I teach like maybe 25, 30 students a week, and I do a bunch of YouTube videos on a couple channels, doing different things. And I rarely will teach music notation, how to like read music. So, another way to phrase this question is like, should I learn how to read music for guitar or learn by ear? I think that guitar is the best instrument to lend itself to learning by ear and not really having to worry so much about like reading music. Now, not to say that reading music isn't like a fantastic skill set for a lot of different guitar players, specifically classical guitar players, because so much of like the classical community is taking those like classic songs and kind of like being able to recreate them. And a big part of that is to kind of get the tone right. And the notes are there before you, and you're working on kind of like improving your tone to kind of sound like the masters. So much of guitar is improvisation. And again, that's dependent on genre too, of course, like jazz, rock, whatever. Blues, a lot of blues is just improvisation. So the best way to improvise thing isn't, by reading charts or looking at notation. It's, what is that? So much of it is just by your ear. So learning the patterns, whether it's pentatonic, major, minor, stuff like that. Learning interval ear training, I think is probably one of the most valuable things. And when I say that, like, what's an interval? An interval is just a space between two notes, right? Kind of a fancy word for like this open low D string to the 3rd fret. So D, D sharp, E, F. That's a minor 3rd, okay? So the sound of 3 frets is a minor 3rd. Being able to do that in different spots, right? So just like MIDI Man right here is saying, you got to learn some theory, scale building, intervals, etc. Those are great compliments to your ear, and also too, they're just a way of like putting a name to what your ear is already identifying. Like so I was a self-taught guitar player, and I didn't pay any attention to any of the theory. I just fired up Ultimate Guitar, learned some tabs for my favorite stuff, and I innately gravitated towards certain songs. But I wouldn't be able to like describe why I liked those songs. And then once I kind of took it more seriously and I really learned the theory and stuff like that, I was able to distinguish why I liked the sound of the songs that I liked. And a lot of that was because of certain intervals, like that major 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then being able, like, my ear already knew that I liked that, but then being able to understand the theory behind that and translate that into my playing was when I really kind of truly found my voice as a guitar player, instead of just kind of like, playing stuff like that too. Stacked thirds. I was self-taught until I started learning. Any thoughts or strategies when buying a guitar using Craigslist or online sites? Okay, so that can get real shady real quick. I've bought and sold a couple different guitars, more so on eBay than Craigslist. I guess maybe I've bought a guitar. I bought a guitar amp on Craigslist once. The only thing about that is, if you're not an experienced player, like you don't know how to like really check if a guitar is like totally working or an amp is like working, or when it comes to the higher end stuff, if it's like a knockoff, you might want to try to bring somebody with you that can like tell like there's something wrong with this guitar, seriously wrong, because that's sadly that's the risk that you run when you're kind of buying stuff off of. Again, not that there's anything shady about Craigslist. Well, actually, there is something shady about Craigslist. Any place where you can kind of like pay for sex and get a guitar and like the click of a beautiful classified ads posting is something you might have a few concerns about. So my advice would definitely be, if you don't feel you're experienced enough to be able to find out or to be able to like tech a piece of gear or a guitar to see if anything is working on it, bring somebody with you who knows how to do it. In fact, you should always bring somebody with you whenever you meet a stranger off a Craigslist site. But that's why I do kind of like eBay, and like Reverb is like another one that is pretty good, because for the most part they guarantee their transactions. Like I bought a used Telecaster off eBay once, and it came and it was just like the bridge was all like rusted. It was like not what they told me it was, and they just kind of, you know, they shipped it back and like I was reimbursed. So if you do that on Craigslist, I'd hate to see you buy something off Craigslist and then, you know, you find out that there's like a piece of string holding like the pickup thing together, and then it just like falls apart. There's really not much you can do. Meeting a Guitar Center is also like a good call. Meeting in a public place, the only thing is, you know, if it's like an amp, it can be hard to like try something out like that in public. So, you know, whatever. But honestly, like Guitar Center, the used stuff I've found is also like pretty reasonably priced for the most part. And even on Craigslist, I kind of feel like and eBay, like maybe 10 years ago, there were screaming deals you could get. I don't really see that stuff as much anymore. I almost see like the Guitar Center used stuff to be just as good a deal, if not better, than a lot of the Craigslist stuff. It always kind of blows my mind, like the Craigslist posters who have like a decent middle of the road piece of gear that are asking like the same price as it is new, sometimes even more than it is new on sale. It's almost just like, who do you think you are, like posting this for MSRP? This is ridiculous. What kind of idiot do you think I am? So you know, those are my thoughts on Craigslist. Now, for getting cheap stuff, it's great. Like you can get like music stands for like $5, which otherwise is like $50. It's pretty cool too. I used to go to pawn shops, but my experience, you're better off buying a new cheap guitar. I like Jackson for cheap, but that's just me. Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. Like I almost don't like, I have the same thoughts about like technology. Like I would never buy a computer used or like a camera used, because you just don't know what it's been through, the stories that it has to tell. So you're right. A lot of times just getting kind of like an entry, you know, cheap intro guitar or whatever from like a big box store is just as good a bet, because you know what you're getting. A lot of times they come with like guarantees, warranties, stuff like that too. And it's really not, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that expensive for a lot of them. So yeah, so we talked about Dadgad. We've answered a lot of the greatest guitar questions of all time. Let's see what else we got. Best arpeggio, somebody asked. Okay, so I know no arpeggios in Dadgad, so I guess I'm going to go back to the arpeggio, the one arpeggio to rule them all. So now I'm back to my lowest four strings are in standard, and I still have a ad. I'm in Dadgad right now. But I'll just do the first four strings of my favorite arpeggio, the one that I learned that kind of like made me go like, oh, there's something to these arpeggios, and that's this one right here. Just like that, right? So all it is, I'm starting on a G. I'm going from 3 to 5 to 7, and then I'm going down a string to 5A. Okay, so that's essentially the whole arpeggio right there. In the major scale, 1, 2, 3. We skip the 4 and go to 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. So this is a G major chord, G, A, B, D. A G major triad with the 2 thrown in there. So you can kind of see this as the add 9, whatever. You're just hitting the 2 on the way. And then once you get here, you go down a string. This is the next G, and then just repeat that same shape. So it's... So really, just by learning one triad arpeggio, this is the one that got me into arpeggios, because I used to think arpeggios just like... which is great, but I mean, it's not, you know, the most fun, exciting thing to play. So when I think of a guitar arpeggio, I think of something that will lead you through the fretboard into the next territory. So this guy, his favorite chord is a C suspended 2, sharp 11. That's nice. So I mean, we could do one of those. So if we have like a C sus 2, we'd have 1, 2, not the 3, get the 5, and then we get the octave there. So that would be 8, 9, 10, 11, right? So we actually go to the 11th fret. So we have a C, 2, 5, right there, yeah. There you go. That's a C sus2 sharp 11 chord arpeggio for you in a freshly out of DAG tuned guitar. Solid chord, man. Excellent. Good choice. So arpeggios. Again, I was really late to the game in arpeggios. Game changer though. So y'all need to like learn your arpeggios. My favorite chord, like I said earlier, F major 7, but more specifically, any 4 chord extended to a major 7 chord. Again, I just can't get enough of that 4 chord. In fact, part of the Sean Daniel style, if you don't know, is treating the 4 chord like it's the 1 chord. So what that means is in any key. Let's take the key of D, for instance, right? D is 1, E is 2, F sharp, and then a G. So basically, I would play a G major 7, but I would act as if that's like home base for me. Yeah, right? It just blew your mind, treating the 4 chord like the 1 chord. So basically, I'm still in DAG. That's great. That's fantastic. But yeah, so it's really just kind of like hammering home on that 4 chord. And you don't even have to extend it. When I say extend it, it means taking it from a major chord to a major 7 chord. Or if it's a minor chord, taking it to a minor 7 chord. It's just kind of treating 4 chord as a 1 chord and having all the tonal center around the 4th degree in that scale. And I'm not saying that's, if you want to try to experiment with some of this stuff, really be aware, like I said before, of your scale degrees, which really, when we're talking about the greatest questions of all time, it's like, how do I master guitar? Is mastering the relationship between intervals. Do you recommend playing open mic nights when taking your playing to the next level? Of course. Huge fan of open mic nights for many different reasons. A lot of times, it's a great place to impress girls or guys, if you're a girl. Either way, you can kind of show some of your chops. Great place to meet friends, meet people, just kind of get out there. Every time I go to an open mic night, I kind of feel like I learned something, still. Watching other players kind of see what their styles are. Again, it's always good for a laugh, too, which is kind of amazing. Some of the people that get up there, you'll meet some of the strangest people, which I absolutely love. And really just kind of like a lot of people have, a little bit of a barrier when it comes to like playing live music, and they just want to get over that hurdle of finally getting out there and playing it. And it's usually there's something where it's like low stakes. That's what it's all about. If you totally bomb at an open mic night, guess what? Nobody cares because so many people are already bombing anyways. It's almost like expected for you to bomb. So if you play an open mic night and you don't bomb, you're just like, you're living a good life, my friends. You're playing with house money. So definitely get yourself to an open mic night because, you might end up meeting another guitar player, forming the next great band. Just, every player has something to teach somebody else and vice versa. So really, one of the best ways to learn is just by meeting other musicians, and open mic nights are usually a great place to do so because everybody there is generally there for the same reason. Just kind of like to share the love of music. They all want to try different things. So yeah, good. Michael, get yourself to an open mic night. Do it. Pay to play. Okay, that's another one that I'm not a huge fan of that. What that means is a lot of times if you're like in a band and you're trying to get recognized and trying to get out there, a lot of venues will have this thing where they'll make the band pay to actually show up and play. I'm just so morally against that. Like, it's one thing to not pay a band. Like, I kind of get it. Like, a lot of the venues don't really have, like, a huge budget to do things. And, a lot of musicians get super salty about not being paid what they feel like they deserve, which, again, if you're, like, working really hard and you're putting, like, a lot of effort, time, and money into it, like, you definitely deserve to be compensated if you're bringing something to that venue. And that's another thing. You get paid to practice. Hey, that's awesome, man. Absolutely. But yeah, see, so this guy's scared he might get laid on open mic. Too much work. Yeah. See, there's a lot of things that could happen at open mic night. But pay to play is when you actually have to pay the venue to just show up and play because they're saying, and their point is that like, listen, we're gonna have people here. Everybody's gonna see you. We'll promote your social media, which whatever that means. All right. So for some bands, it ends up working. They kind of do the pay-to-play thing. They get a following around that. I guess I've never actually done that, but I was like filling in for a band that did it. And it just seemed like a shady experience. So not a pay-to-play fan. Our guitar lesson is copyrighted. I've turned some of the lessons on your other channel into songs, and I'm worried I'll need to set aside my kids' college fund for lawyers when they're big hits. So no guitar lessons, I don't believe, are copyrighted. Anything that I play on there, feel free to take, man. If you can rock it, do your thing. Just don't forget your old buddy Sean when you hit it big. Just a shout out. That's all I require. But yeah, definitely lessons are not copyrighted. I was just watching your vid from the morning. Had no idea you were live. Good stuff. Adam, thank you for joining us. Word, thanks, Sean. Good to see you all. Yeah, definitely. Thank you, everybody, for joining for the greatest guitar questions ever. I mean, now I was a little worried at the beginning of this video that these indeed were not going to be some of the greatest guitar questions ever. But now that we're like, 50 plus minutes into it, I think these have been the greatest guitar questions like ever. So I'm proud of you all for really carrying this. But anyways, definitely, if you're just kind of coming from my channel and you're checking out Guitar Control, I've got a bunch of lessons on here. So subscribe to them because I got other cool teachers too. Yeah, and I've got some more videos coming out there too. So definitely, thank you all for showing up and joining. And we're going to leave this up. It's going to be on the website if you want to check some of the beginning questions where I answered what guitar I would use to fight off zombies in an apocalypse. Chord building next time. Yeah, for sure. We could probably talk more about chord building next time. I forget what the next... I'm going to be here every Wednesday night at 8, by the way. So this is like the Sean Daniels show. Augmented diminished scales too. You got it, man. Thank you for the suggestions. So I'll be here next Wednesday at 8. There's like a list of topics ahead of time, which I'm not intimately familiar with right now, but I will learn them. So please, anything you want to see, put it in the comments of this video, because the guys who run this channel too always look for that stuff. So, really just anything you want to know, put it in the comments and we'll get to it as soon as we can. And until next time, thanks everybody for hanging out. See you next time.